You notice it in small moments. A message sent. The screen goes quiet. Minutes stretch. Then hours. Sometimes days. You feel it before you explain it, that slight drop in your chest. The thought you push away. Maybe I don't matter as much as I thought. Here's the uncomfortable truth most people avoid. Not everyone who smiles at you wants you to win. Some people shake your hand while checking where you're weakest. They laugh, nod, agree, and quietly hope you stall. This isn't paranoia, it's pattern recognition. People didn't become kinder, they became quieter. The knife didn't disappear, it learned how to hide. Watch what happens next. The reply finally arrives. Short, flat, necessary, no curiosity, no warmth, just closure. You tell yourself they were busy. You repeat it because it feels safer than the alternative. But here's the risk. Busy people still choose. They always have. This isn't about neediness. This is about reading the terrain. Time is the only currency humans can't fake. We spend it freely on what matters. We ration it when something feels like a burden. So try a small experiment. Stop listening to explanations. Start tracking patterns. One delayed response means nothing. Repeated delay means position. Interest versus obligation. Presence versus tolerance. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. When someone makes you wait consistently, they're already communicating. They're telling you that engaging with you costs effort, that replying feels like work, that your presence isn't urgent. Most people miss this because they want harmony more than clarity. They smooth it over. They self-blame. They call it nothing. But what if it's not nothing? What if this is the first visible crack in the mask? If you can't see where you stand, you can't protect yourself. And this is only the surface signal. There are quieter ones, sharper ones. The kind you only notice once you stop making excuses. The real question isn't whether they respect you. It's how many signs you've already ignored. And what changes when you stop. You're not here to stay confused. You're here to see. So do something simple. Watch the clock. Not once, over time. One delay is human. Repeated delay is direction. Someone is choosing where you stand, and they're choosing it quietly. The risk is not noticing. The comfort is pretending it means nothing. Try this instead. Stop reacting. Start recording. No drama, no confrontation, just data, clarity or comfort. You can't keep both. Because time doesn't lie, and the person who keeps you waiting is already speaking. The question is whether you listen or wait again. Now watch what happens next. They compliment you. You feel the lift for half a second. Then it fades. Good for you. That's nice. I'm happy for you. Sounds supportive, feels empty, no detail, no weight, no proof they were even there. Here's the uncomfortable part. Real respect is specific. It points, it names, it remembers. So run a quiet test. Don't chase the warmth. Listen for substance, energy or noise, precision or fog. The hollow compliment exists for one reason. Silence would expose too much. So they offer safe words instead. Just enough to keep you unsure. Just enough to keep you polite. Watch their eyes when they speak. Do they stay with you or leave early? Listen to the voice. Does it rise with interest or fall like a memorized line? This isn't about paranoia, it's about immunity. Because once you hear the difference, you can't unhear it. And this is only the second signal. There are deeper tells, sharper ones, the kind that don't flatter at all and reveal far more than praise ever could. You notice it after the fact. A photo, a story, a laugh that doesn't include you. The moment passes, but something stays. That quiet question you don't say out loud. When did this happen without me? They have an answer ready. Last minute. Assumed you were busy. Didn't think it was your thing. It sounds harmless. That's the danger. Here's the uncomfortable part. People who respect you don't erase you by accident. Forgetting once is human. Forgetting you repeatedly is design. So change the frame. Don't ask why. Watch what disappears. Access or isolation. Presence or silence. Run the experiment quietly. Track the invites that never arrive. Notice the rooms that you stop being named in. See which conversations move forward without you. This isn't drama, it's positioning. The most effective removal doesn't look like conflict. It looks like absence, no argument, no scene, just fewer doors opening. And here's the risk most people avoid. When you're excluded long enough, others adapt. Your absence becomes normal. Your value stops being defended. This is how influence dies without a fight. You can explain it away if you want. Busyness, chaos, oversight. That explanation buys comfort, not clarity. Because every invitation is a choice. Every silence is information. Once you see this, you don't panic, you adjust. You stop waiting outside rooms that no longer open, and this is only one layer of the pattern. There are signals that come before exclusion, quieter ones, that decide whether the door closes at all. You can feel it before you name it. A conversation that looks fine on the surface, but something underneath is already pulling away. So don't argue with it. Look at it. Here's the risk most people avoid. Words are trained. They know how to behave. Bodies don't. So run a different experiment. Stop listening first. Start watching. Comfort or truth. You only get one. Notice where their feet point when you speak. Toward you, or toward the exit. The body always leans toward where it wants to be. If it's angled away, the decision has already been made. Watch the arms. Crossed, tight, closed, not relaxed, not open. That's not casual posture. That's defense. Here's the uncomfortable part. People don't shield themselves from what they value. They shield themselves from what they feel threatened by. Now watch the eyes. Real respect stays present. It meets you. Contempt doesn't argue. It withdraws. Or worse, it looks through you. No warmth, no resistance, just absence. Pay attention to what flashes and disappears. A jaw tightening when you speak. A nostril flare when you share progress. A split-second expression they didn't mean to show. Those moments aren't mistakes. They're leaks. This isn't about obsession. It's about advantage. Because while words negotiate, the body reports honestly. Every movement is a message sent without permission. Most people miss this because they want peace more than accuracy. They hear smiles. They ignore posture. But once you start seeing it, you can't go back. You realize how much information was always there. Free, constant, unfiltered. And this is only one layer of the signal. There are reactions even harder to fake. Responses that happen under pressure. When control slips. That's where things get interesting. You start to notice it in the smallest routines. You're the one who texts first. You're the one who checks in. You're the one who remembers. At first it feels normal. Then it starts to feel heavy. And that's the moment most people lie to themselves. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Effort reveals intent, faster than words ever will. People protect what matters to them. They invest where they see value. So change the frame. Don't ask how they feel. Watch what they do. Balance or drain. Mutual or one-sided. Run a quiet test. Stop pushing for a moment. Stop initiating. Stop holding the connection together with your hands. What remains? Someone who values you doesn't need reminders. They don't need pressure. They show up because they choose to. Time appears, energy appears, presence appears, but someone who quietly despises you plays a different game. They let you carry everything. They accept your effort like it's owed. They can serve themselves while you burn. This isn't neglect. It's efficiency. They keep you close enough to be useful, far enough to cost them nothing. You're not a priority. You're a convenience. Here's the risk most people avoid facing. If you disappeared tomorrow, would anything in their life change? Or would the silence feel easy? Words promise comfort. Investment proves reality. So stop measuring sincerity by tone. Measure it by sacrifice. Who gives when it's inconvenient? Who stays when there's nothing to gain? The moment you see the imbalance, something shifts. You stop chasing, you stop explaining, you stop pouring energy into places that don't hold it, and this is where power quietly returns. Not through confrontation, through withdrawal. Because there's one final signal, the reaction people have when your effort disappears, and that one tells the truth faster than anything before it. You feel it shift when others are around. The tone changes, the smile sharpens, a comment lands, everyone laughs, you smile too, a second late. That delay matters. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Some attacks need witnesses. Private disrespect feeds the ego. Public disrespect rewrites status. So change the frame. Don't ask if they meant harm. Watch where and when it happens. Private or public. Support or display. Run the experiment. Notice who waits for an audience, who saves their help for the room, who turns your mistake into entertainment. It never sounds like an insult. That's the trick. It sounds like a joke, a correction, a reminder, for your own good. But watch the effect. The room recalibrates. Your competence shrinks by inches. Their authority quietly grows. Here's the risk most people avoid admitting. Status is fragile, and it can be reduced without blood, without shouting, without anyone objecting. That's why it's done this way. Small cuts, clean hands, plausible innocence. Pay attention to who could have spoken to you alone, but didn't. Who revisits your past only when others can hear it. Who laughs a beat too hard when you stumble. This isn't clumsiness, it's placement. The goal is simple. Lower you in the group while appearing generous. And once you see it, you stop reacting emotionally. You stop defending the joke. You stop explaining yourself. You start choosing where your energy goes. Who gets access? Who gets distance? Because effort, attention, presence, they're leverage. And there's one response to public undermining that ends it without confrontation. A shift, so quiet most people miss it, but it changes the balance immediately. That's where this leads. You can feel when it's meant to leave no fingerprints, a laugh, a shrug, a moment that looks harmless if you don't slow it down. Most people don't. They call it a joke. They call themselves sensitive. That's the comfort story. Here's the uncomfortable truth. This isn't about feelings, it's about repetition. When the same person keeps shrinking you in front of others, they're not teasing. They're shaping perception. So change the frame. Don't react. Record. Noise or pattern. Impulse or strategy. Watch how often it happens. Who's present. What they gain from it. This isn't chaos. It's selection. The mistake most people make is explosion. Defending themselves, showing heat. That's exactly what's being tested. So do the opposite. Go quiet. Not passive or precise. You share less. You reveal nothing useful. You stop feeding them material. Because here's the leverage. The cleanest response isn't confrontation, it's altitude. When you rise, their jokes lose oxygen. When you become solid, their cuts expose their own fear, and fear is loud to anyone who knows how to listen. Now watch the shift. They don't attack anymore. They step back. Not fully, just enough. Messages shorten. Meetings thin out. Warmth cools into something polite and empty. This isn't distance by chance, it's design. They can't afford open conflict. They can't afford closeness either. So they engineer space while smiling. Presence or absence. Connection or control. Brick by brick, a wall appears. And most people walk into it without realizing it was built on purpose. But once you see this move, you stop chasing warmth that's been withdrawn strategically. You stop filling gaps that were created deliberately. And that's where the balance flips. Because the one who withdraws first thinks they're winning until you stop reaching at all. And that reaction, that moment of confusion on their side, that's where the final truth shows itself. You notice it slowly. Not a fight, not a goodbye, just less. Shorter replies, shallower words, a warmth that used to be there now replaced by polite air. At first, you protect the feeling. You tell yourself it's normal, people get busy, things change. That story is comfortable, and that's why it's dangerous. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Real exits rarely announce themselves. They dissolve. So change the frame. Stop asking what they mean. Watch what's missing. Depth or surface, presence or avoidance. Run the experiment. Notice who no longer shares real thoughts, who cuts conversations short without reason, who leans away while smiling. This isn't confusion, it's construction. They maintain just enough contact to avoid a scene, enough politeness to stay innocent, but not enough to sustain anything real. What's happening is quiet removal. You're being eased out while you're still holding the plan of what used to be. Here's the risk most people don't take. They chase clarity. They ask for explanations. They reach harder. That's the work being outsourced to you, so don't close the distance. Match it, silence or pursuit, alignment or self-respect. Withdraw your energy without drama. Stop offering proximity where it's no longer wanted. Redirect attention toward those who step closer, not back. Because holding on to someone who is already leaving only trains them to leave without consequence. The shift happens when you stop asking to be kept, when you let the space remain, when you move first. And that's when the balance flips. Because the moment you stop doing their exit for them, you take control of the ending. And that control, that quiet, unspoken decision, is where untouchability begins. You don't announce it, you don't explain, you simply stop reaching. And that's when it lands. They expect confusion, they expect questions, they expect you to chase the warmth they already withdrew. Instead, they get nothing. No resistance, no need. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The strongest shift happens when the need to be wanted disappears. Most people never let that die. They carry it quietly and bleed from it daily. So change the experiment. Let the distance remain. Let the silence stand. Attachment or freedom. Reaction or control. Watch what happens when you don't fill the gap. When you don't ask for clarity. When you don't offer effort to someone already leaving. Confusion appears on their side. Discomfort. That brief moment where they wonder if you saw through it all from the start. This is where power returns. Not because you won, but because you stopped giving it away. They chose to step back. You chose not to follow, and in that choice, something resets. Your energy comes back. Your dignity stabilizes. Your focus sharpens. You're no longer guessing. You're seeing. You recognize the patterns now, the delays, the empty praise, the quiet exclusions, the bodies that spoke before the words did, the imbalance, the public cuts, the slow retreat. These aren't theories anymore. They're filters. But here's the risk. Knowing without acting changes nothing. It just decorates the mind. So don't confront. Don't demand honesty from people who mastered concealment. Observe. Adjust. Move quietly. Protect your energy like it's scarce. Because it is. Redirect it inward, into growth, into elevation. Let your progress answer questions you never asked. Let your absence speak where words would fail. You're not blind anymore, not naive, not available for manipulation. And if something shifted while you listened, if you felt that click of recognition, remember this moment. Because the mask only works on those who still need it. And what comes next is not validation. It's ascent.